I'm grateful to Chairman Powell. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me 2 weeks ago. I look forward to working with you as we work on a recovery for that embraces our whole country, and especially look forward to working with you and Atlanta Fed President Raphael Warnock to help Georgians over the next 2 years. Some have suggested that our COVID-19 challenges with unemployment, with homelessness and poverty will be solved if we simply lift all local restrictions and open up the economy. But since the beginning of this crisis, I've heard you stress time and time again, and something along this order, even today as you offered your testimony, that the path of the economy, you said on one occasion, continues to depend significantly on the course of the virus. Would you mind elaborating on why this is the case? Will the economy fully recover if people don't feel safe and comfortable that the virus is contained?
I would answer your question in the negative. It would not. We know that actually at the beginning of the pandemic, if you look at the plummeting levels of travel and going to restaurants through Open Table, all that data, it shows that people stopped doing those things because of the coronavirus before there were governmental restrictions at the state and local level to do those things. So it really is, to a significant extent, just people wanting to avoid catching, the coronavirus. It's also the restrictions that are in place in some cases on the part of governments. It's not a role for us to express views on whether they should be lifted or not. That's really something for state and local governments. But clearly, if you look at where the 10 million people who are out of work, a great number of them are in those sectors of the economy that have been so badly affected by COVID. And those are the ones where you gather closely and where people are still, not every person, but many people are still reluctant to go to indoor restaurants, for example. And you see sporting events, they're not having crowds. So those are the people who worked in those areas. Those are the ones who were affected. And it's going to be hard for them to go back to work until people are confident, as you say.
So we want the economy to fully recover, but we've got to get the virus under control, and those things work together, which is why I'm glad to see $20 billion in the vaccine rollout funds and the COVID-19 stimulus package, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we get those funds approved and out the door so that we can reopen and do so safely and permanently. You're also tasked, you're tasked primarily with looking at the whole economy and with the big picture and guiding our country forward. And one of the things that you have to look at as you do that is systemic risks. You and the other governors over the Fed board have to ask, well, what risks are systemic? And in that regard, I'm curious, how broad is your definition of systemic risk? My definition of systemic risk includes a cycle of poverty. It includes things like disparities in wages that mean women make less than men. People of color make less than their white sisters and brothers. It includes food insecurity, housing insecurity, lack of access to health care. These things feed a cycle that limits opportunity, limits upward mobility, and people's ability to reach their full potential, which then has implications for the whole economy. How do you factor these kinds of things in as you take stock of whether the economy is working or not, and for whom is the economy working?
So you've heard us increasingly in recent years talking about these longer run disparities, and why do we feel that we can do that? It is because they weigh on the economy, in the sense that if not everyone has the opportunity to participate in the economy and contribute as much as that person can contribute, given his or her talents and abilities and willingness to work and all those different things, then the economy is going to be less than it can be. And here in our country, of course, and every country faces challenges. You know, we're not alone in this, but we do face persistent, very persistent differentials that are hard to account for and that weigh on the economy. And those are along racial lines, along gender lines, and other lines. I just think it's, I would say it's widely understood now that we need to do everything we can to bring people into the economy and let them contribute and let them share in the broader prosperity.
Thank you, Chairman Powell. It's clear that the bottom line is that poverty, systemic inequality, wealth inequality are risks to the entire economy and have implications for all of us, that these issues cannot be siloed, which is why we've got to take this into consideration as we push forward COVID relief and then pivot to address longstanding issues of wealth inequality in our country. Thank you so very much.